Today I'm doing a movie review because it's a car movie and might as well do it. F1 the movie, a Jerry Bruckheimer film, directed and written by Joseph Kosinski, co-written by Aaron Kruger. Now, this crew worked together on Top Gun Maverick, which was a very well-paced, very exciting movie, good action, great practical effects. Now, can they do the same thing for the second time with F1? Bruckheimer is famous for doing Armageddon, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Remember the Titans, to name a few of his movies as a producer. Our main character, Sonny Hayes, who's played by Brad Pitt, he's racing at the 24 Hours of Daytona in the opening sequence. They fill in a lot of the gaps about what type of person and driver Sonny is. You know, he's a win-at-all-costs kind of guy, which there are a bunch of those in racing. We are immediately sucked into the world of motorsports. There's some great in and out of car action shots, great sound. The racing is 90% realistic, but, you know, this isn't Ford versus Ferrari, so they can take a little bit of liberties to make a little bit more excitement for the, you know, the non-car guys out there. Honestly, they did very, very well shot in the opening sequence. After the race, Hayes goes back to his usual life of drifting, but he is tracked down by his longtime friend and ex-teammate, Ruben Cervantes, who's played by Javier Bardem, who now owns a bad F1 team and is looking to his old mate to help him tame his young, petulant, talented driver, Josh Pierce, who's played by Damson Idris. They allude to Pitt's age. This is a real sticking point with me and any F1 fans. We know that once you're over 45, you're considered, well, retired in F1. But it's kind of not minimalized and a little bit swept under the rug in a good way, though, because Pitt does have a way of coming off kind of youthful. And through some of the scenes here, you can see that he's truly trained really hard to get into something resembling race car driver shape. As Pitt goes to the meet the team, we are introduced to them. The brash female aerodynamicist Kate McKellar, played by Kerry Condon, who's based off of Bernie Collins, a real life person who was the head strategist for Aston Martin. I could see the similarities. The team principal, Kasper Smolinski, who's played by Kim Bodnia. Now, you can think of the team principal, if you're not familiar with F1, he's like the manager of a baseball team. He's the guy that makes everything run day to day. You have Dodge, who's played by Abdul Salas, who is the chief mechanic, and Jody Callie Cook, who's a mechanic on the team and she's a wheelman that, you know, she's kind of used as an allegory for the health of the team. And it's actually very fascinating the way they use her during the actual progress of the movie. I found that very interesting. We also get to see how Pierce is really a petulant driver, lacking just absolute any patience, and is consumed with like social media and being noticed. And this is kind of fed by his manager, Cash, who I take is his cousin, who's played by Samson Kayo. Very, very well done. Very realistic. Now, Cash, like most of the managers, wants him to be a brand. That's very common these days. And also then we are introduced to Pierce's mom, who's played by Sarah Nils, who is really his anchor in reality. Very well played out. Very strong relationship is built between the two of them. Very, very, very believable. They have 9 races to turn this team around, because if they don't, Rubens, Hayes' friend, loses his team because the board of directors will then just sell it from underneath him. So now we're at the point, can they make it? Does Hayes help the young protege? Does Pierce want Hayes' help? You know, the stakes are high, and you can actually feel it from this movie. But before I go on, I had to address some suspension of disbelief and plot conveniences. I mean, no movie is perfect. I mean, we had Ford vs. Ferrari, Rush, and the classics Grand Prix and Le Mans. They all had things that were done to help move the plot along or kind of concise things. But the big thing that I just couldn't get past was the 24 Hours of Daytona, which is at the beginning of the movie. That's run in January, end of January. And he's then approached to help the F1 team after their summer break, the second half of the year. Summer break is from July to August. So I don't know if there was a time jump there that I missed or if they just kind of ran it together for convenience. Also, Hayes jumping into an F1 car after 30 years and running competitively test is a little bit hard to swallow, even though he's racing sports cars. F1 cars are a whole other level of just machinery. They have thousands of settings on them. They pull 5Gs during braking and 4Gs sideways in cornering. So there's a little bit of an issue there. Hayes' age and his physical fitness, though he's in great shape. I mean, he is north of 50 in this movie. I can't exactly say what, but the FIA and Formula One are very, very strict on getting physicals for drivers. You know, once again, plot convenience. Finally, with the last thing with the plot, they build in a love story. It takes up screen time. Don't know if it really was needed. There's so much other stuff going on here that kind of is very superfluous. Even my wife was kind of like, why are they adding this? You know, it doesn't really seem to bring anything else to the plate. And then one big issue, and if you can see this, it's 2 hours and 38 minutes long. I spent 3 hours at the theater because of the previews. When you go, make sure you use the restroom beforehand. But with all that said, the runtime is not noticed while you're in there because the pacing is very well done. So with Top Gun Maverick, Joseph Kosinski knows how to pace a movie. The racing scenes are shot to give you the sense of the stakes at hand, the danger, you know, the feeling of being in the car. And the sound adds to it. The sound is done very, very well. This is very good production value, very good directing on the action. Also, F1 did a good job of having current drivers, team principals available and you know, use their personalities in the movie because that added to the realism of it. They also used McLaren's headquarters for the Apex team, which made it very realistic. McLaren has a very nice modern headquarters, which made it fit in with the way the team was set up. They used Croft and Brundle, and they're the real announcers for F1, and it just added to the realism and really made you get sucked into the movie. Now, the interactions during the race between the drivers and the pit walls, very realistically done, very well paced, very well shot. So the relationship between the two drivers, Hayes and Pierce, also done in a very realistic way. When they do pit stops, it feels like a pit stop. When a car crashes, it feels like a car is crashing. You know, the writing is very well done for making the point that you care about the people that are actually in this movie, the goals that they're trying to achieve as a team. I mean, I was completely sucked in, and I almost started rooting for this team during the movie. That's how real they made it feel. It was actually very impressive. Overall, not as accurate as other movies like Ford vs. Ferrari. This movie brings you to a really feel-good story that stays out of politics. Well, except F1 politics, which is crazy in itself. And other horrible tropes that have been brought into modern movies. It's a fun summer movie. I'll go watch it again without fail. It's also a good movie to bring a significant other to. Even if they don't watch F1, they're going to like the story. I mean, even my intrepid assistant, you know, my daughter, who's 18, loved the movie. She knows a little bit of F1, but she loved just the story involved in it. And also the soundtrack for the movie is very good for Gen Z. There's a lot of Gen Z performers in there. There's also some classic artists in there. And the music is set up very well in this movie to truly bring you into it, to give you the feel of what's going on. So, I mean, with all that said, you know, I liked it. It's a good movie. I recommend seeing it. And I give it 8 out of 10 Hemmys. It just loses a little bit for the length of time and then some of the continuity issues. But other than that, it was phenomenal and definitely definitely go see this if you can in the theaters, just to get the sound and the spectacle. So thanks a lot, and I will see you soon. If you liked what you saw, subscribe. If you didn't, thank you for watching to this point. And as always, if you have a cool car or something fun to drive, take it out. You'll make someone's day, probably your own.